Am I the jerk for telling my aunt I won't bake a cake for my uncle's birthday after he ruined my mother's birthday celebration that I planned? I am a 23-year-old female. My mother, a 54-year-old female, has a sister named Haley, who is 47 years old, and a brother named Ian, who is 52 years old. My mother and Ian are both very close to Haley. Ian has a chronic illness and was cheated on by his wife of several years. They divorced about 10 years ago, and he was laid off from his job around the same time. I do not know the details because I was pretty young, but my mother's relationship with him became more distant, even though she tried to support him. I think he was, and perhaps still is, quite resentful of her because he was dealt a more challenging hand. My mother has no real health issues. She has a lovely husband and a lovely daughter, and a stable job. Ian is now in a better place financially, and my mother has been trying to rebuild their relationship. They text often and even call a few times a month. For my mother's birthday this year, I got plane tickets for my mother, father, and myself to go stay with Haley's family in the city where my mother grew up so we could have some of her oldest friends over to celebrate. I also baked a cake. This was a surprise for my mother, but I asked Haley if it was alright beforehand, and she was excited and up for it. When we arrived, I found out that Ian was also visiting, which Haley had not told me. I asked her about it and she said she forgot to tell me because she did not think it was a big deal. Apparently, he visits often. Ian was friendly with my mother and she seemed happy he was there, so I thought it would be okay. I told Ian the night before my mother's birthday about the party plan and asked if he wanted to attend or had other plans. He said he was going out with friends that morning, but he would be home by evening for the party. My mother's friends arrived at 5:00 and Ian was not home. I thought he would come soon, but he was not home even by 10:00, and my mother's friends started to leave. I called Ian several times, and so did Haley, but he did not pick up. My mother was really upset because she assumed he would be there, and initially, when she asked, I confirmed that he would. Eventually, we cut the cake without him, and he came home at around 12:30 after my mother's friends had all left. I did not say anything to him. Haley tried telling me he did not mean to make my mother sad. I was really angry, but I did not want to cause drama and make my mother more upset. We went home the next day. Recently, Haley invited my parents and me to visit again to celebrate Ian's birthday. My parents are going, but I said I would be busy. Haley said that if I came, I could make a birthday cake like I did for my mother and Ian would love it. I said I really do not care after what he did on her birthday. Haley said I do not understand their relationship, and if I refuse to bake a cake, it will only make things worse because he does not have a child who would do things like that for him. I said I really do not care. But now I feel guilty because I hurt Haley's feelings, and maybe this would actually make things better between my mother and Ian. Maybe I am judging Ian too harshly. You are not the bad guy in this situation for not baking a cake for someone who's been disrespectful. It's reasonable to be upset when someone ruins your mom's birthday that you planned. You don't owe him a cake, and these relationships aren't yours to manage. However, it might help to ask your mom what she wants in this scenario. Am I the jerk for telling my parent I have a job while paying for lunch during an argument? My spouse, who is 28 years old, is terminally ill and is sleeping a lot more these days, which is a sign that he is near the end of his life. I am his caregiver. My mother, who is 59 years old, has been codependent for as long as I can remember. Watching her lack of emotional regulation taught me to downplay or hide my emotions to protect hers growing up, and I still do not readily share my emotions. She gives me unsolicited advice on what to do or how to feel, and assumes I am in denial about the seriousness of my situation because I do not share every detail of what we are going through. I have repeatedly set boundaries with her, as I am already carrying my own grief along with my spouse's, and have told her I cannot carry hers. Today she fell for an online scam, so we went to lunch to cheer her up. While we were eating, she suddenly said, "Just so you know, your spouse is very likely going to die in his sleep." It caught me off guard and felt patronizing. When I asked her why she said that, she claimed I do not share anything with her, which is not true, and felt it was important to tell me so that I am better prepared for his death. I calmly told her I did not need unsolicited advice on how to navigate a situation I have lived with and thought about for years, and that I am an adult capable of handling my own issues. I also explained that it is hurtful to hear something so dark and out of place when I am trying to enjoy our visit and live in the moment. She got defensive even though I told her I knew she meant well. She then started crying and twisting my words around, accusing me of calling her hateful and asserting that she's the mom and needs to know her child is okay. I said she is not entitled to know every detail about my inner world or waking life. At this point, I felt anxious, but I stood by my boundary. My mother was still crying as I picked up the check. She began to insist that she pay, but I had planned on paying since I have a consistent income and had just been paid. She works freelance and lives in a travel trailer. Overwhelmed, I said without thinking, "I have a job and you just got scammed out of $200, let me." And she accused me of calling her a loser with no reliable income. I told her to stop putting words in my mouth, but she kept going, saying things like I'm just a terrible mother. Part of me thinks she brought this up just to deflect her own behavior, but I do feel bad for saying it even if it was not intended to be that deep. She cried during an otherwise quiet ride home before she brought up the check and what she had said. I asked her how she thought my spouse would feel if he heard her say what she did, or how it makes me feel to hear her say that and have my own situation explained to me like I was dumb. She kept dismissing my anger, so I asked her to find somewhere else to stay, which I feel bad about because it was raining today and she was already having a bad day from getting scammed. Am I the asshole? You behaved properly. The concern trolling, grandiloquent self-flagellation, and big tears are all textbook emotional manipulation. She's doing the same thing she's seemingly always done, but now you're setting boundaries and enforcing them as an adult, which she's not used to. It's going to make you feel guilty because guilt is all she has now, but rest assured it shows you're on the right track. Over time, as you keep standing your ground, the guilt will go away. Am I the jerk for not wanting to have my life dictated by my sibling's spouse? My wife, who is 49 years old, and I, a 46-year-old female, have been together for 12 years. For 10 of those years, we've had a significant role in raising our niece, her brother's daughter, who is 13 years old, and has lived with us for nearly 9 years. My brother-in-law had custody of her, but he had little interest in raising her, so we took on the challenge. Throughout the 8+ years she has lived with us, my brother-in-law has expressed almost no gratitude whatsoever. I was okay with that because I am not doing it for praise or recognition. I am doing it because I love our niece. In addition to expressing no gratitude, my brother-in-law consistently tried to dictate how we are to raise her, despite having no interest in doing it himself. This has become more difficult to deal with over the years, and my brother-in-law has developed resentment towards me. Recently, he decided he wanted to take our niece from us, despite her clearly expressing that she does not want to live with him. After nearly a year of unsuccessfully trying to convince him to let her stay, my wife and I petitioned for and were granted custody of our niece last May. Although the court process was a lot of work and nerve-wracking at times, I felt a great deal of relief, like a sense of standing up to him and saying, "We will no longer be your puppets." When visitation was set, the judge noted that my brother-in-law was responsible for picking up and dropping off my niece before and after visitation, which is a 1 hour and 10-minute drive each way. As soon as the visitations began, my wife volunteered to drop our niece off to him and pick her back up at the end of his visiting days. I told her that I was not comfortable with that, as I felt like going to court and standing up to him sent a clear message that we will no longer play by his rules. When she immediately began catering to him so he would not be inconvenienced, I felt he was given a new message that said, "The rules have not changed at all. You still call the shots." Additionally, my wife and I had previously discussed getting our niece a phone to use when she is away from us, such as when she is on visitation with her father and when she travels to the next county with her team for soccer scrimmages, which happens twice per season. Without rediscussing it with my wife, I got her a phone that is to be used almost entirely to make calls and text to us so that we may also be able to contact her. I have parental controls on the phone that I manage from my own device. My wife is very upset that I got the phone because her brother is very likely going to be angry that I did so. I had not put his number in her phone since my niece has it memorized and will mostly be with him at the times that she has the phone. My wife seemed upset that I had not put his number in the phone. She had also questioned whether my brother-in-law would be in charge of the phone while our niece was with him, which seems illogical, given the reason she has the phone is so she can contact us if need be, without interference from my brother-in-law. Am I the asshole? Honest opinions are appreciated. This post has been removed because the title is asking for a judgment of emotions, which isn't allowed here. Am I the jerk post should be about actions, not emotions, desires, or thoughts related to someone else's actions. Before reposting, review the provided links for Rule 7 FAQs and the subreddit rules. If there are any questions, feel free to message the mods. Am I the jerk for cutting off my friend after they repeatedly insulted my boyfriend? I, a 23-year-old female, started dating my boyfriend, Mel, a 25-year-old male, 2 months ago, after 2 weeks of aggressively flirting with him at our gym. I had been single for about 3 years prior to meeting him, and he was different from the guys I dated previously. In college, I was shallow and didn't care about a guy's personality, intelligence, or ambition. I dated wannabe models, actors, influencers, and trust fund babies with no plans to achieve things. Mel is just as attractive as every guy I've dated, tall, fit, and well-groomed, but he's much more. He's like the type of guy movies are written about. He grew up poor in rural Michigan, learned to swim in a lake near his home, which prompted him to swim competitively and eventually go to college on a swimming scholarship. After college, he served in the Peace Corps in Ecuador before pursuing an MD-PhD program. His life experiences have made him mature, emotionally intelligent, and self-assured. I have no idea why he is into me, but I must keep him. My friend from college, Mia, has been insulting Mel behind his back since she met him, particularly his socioeconomic background and his weight. Mel is very fit and works out 6 days a week but doesn't eat like a model. Mia's idea of fat is a guy without a perfectly flat stomach. Every time we're together, the minute Mel leaves, she'll say something demeaning about him. A couple of weeks ago, we were at a restaurant with friends and Mel ordered cake. Mia whispered to me, "That cake isn't doing him any favors." This has gone on for nearly 2 months, as Mia was one of my best friends and the first to meet Mel. I've told her to cut it out and elbowed her in the ribs every time she does it, but the last straw happened a few days ago when Mia sent me a horrific meme about Mel. It had jabs about his weight, his family background and income level, and even his father, who died last year. I was so upset that I called Mia and told her I was done hanging out with her. I would hate it if Mel stayed friends with someone who constantly insulted me. Now our friend group is divided. Some friends are saying they secretly hated Mia all along, while others are calling me selfish and bringing up all of the times Mia drove me home at 3 a.m. and stayed with me to help me with my hangovers. It's true that Mia was my day one, which is perhaps why I kept her around even after everything she said about Mel. When Mel asked why I wasn't answering Maya's calls, I showed him the meme. Mel definitely still hurts from his father's death, and he's a bit self-conscious of his weight living in LA and not fully adhering to the beauty standards. I could tell he was hurt by the meme, and he told me he was happy I defended him, but that I shouldn't cut off such a close friend when I can help her change. I told him she won't change. I've been telling her to stop for the past 2 months to no avail. He said it's up to me, but he thinks I'm throwing away a friendship. Is he right? Am I an asshole? This post has been removed because it violates Rule 11, which prohibits discussions related to cutting contact, ghosting, and breaking off friendships. Please review the rules and Rule 11 FAQs in their entirety, then message the mods before attempting to resubmit your story. Resubmitting without approval will lead to a ban. For other subreddits that might be a better fit for your post, consider visiting r/finderdit. Am I the jerk for asking my fiancé who just gave birth to pay rent? My fiancé, who is 34 years old, and I, who am 41 years old, have been together for 8 years, engaged for 6, and have just had our first child together. It is not the way I wanted things to be, but life happened. A few months after we originally got engaged, her parents' house burned down, taking them both, and my daughter's mother abandoned her. This plunged us both into crisis for months. By the time we were really able to focus on our relationship again almost 2 years later, the damage had been done. I still wanted to get married and have a family, but she was now less sure. Losing her primary support system in her parents devastated her and dredged up all her childhood trauma. She saw horror stories play out in front of her of women and mothers in poverty post-divorce and exactly what can happen to them and their children. She started to break down if I mentioned marriage. We have been in couple and individual therapy, but the bottom line is that she is terrified to get married because of the power and control it would give me. I would never ever go after her money, but she doesn't believe me. We had an unplanned pregnancy last year, pausing discussions once again. It was too stressful for both of us, and I understand that, but I need some level of commitment. She moved in with me as her place is too small, but is still keeping her house because she never wants to risk the idea that she could be out on the street for even a second if I get tired of her or she has to leave. However, she does not contribute to anything around here except the baby. Our child is now 6 months old and I am tired of it. At this point, if she will not do anything else to buy into this family, I want her to start paying some of the mortgage or bills around here. She is not some guest. She is either part of the family or a tenant. She is pushing back, saying that this is not how this works, and how dare I ask for money. She just came off of maternity leave, and she is not willing to pay for someone else's life. I think she needs to. My sister agrees. Her extended family does not. They think at best it is shameful, and is only going to make her trust issues worse. They believe it is best for the baby to have an intact family. I am questioning myself, as I would normally think it is wrong too, but I am not so sure here. It sounds like you don't want the same things out of life, and might be sticking it out, due to the amount of time invested and your child, rather than genuine happiness. Based on what you wrote, it sounds like your fiancé is living with you but not contributing financially at all, unless it has to do with the baby. Unless you both agreed that she will be a Sam, it doesn't make sense that she isn't contributing to the household. Just have her move out and co-parent as best you can, as it seems like neither of you see each other as life partners who deserve love, empathy, and effort. Am I the jerk for taking one of my children to play mini golf while my other child was at the doctor? This is my first post. The names and some of the non-relevant details are fudged for privacy. My wife, Rose, who is in her 30s, and I, a man in my 40s, have 2 daughters. Mary is a 6-year-old girl, and Ally is a 4-year-old girl. Ally has suffered from moderate asthma and has to see a doctor every 3 to 6 months to make sure she's okay and determine whether or not she needs to be on an inhaler. Ally had her appointment on Thursday, and Rose took her. I was in charge of picking up Mary from camp. This is where the disagreement begins. That morning, we were talking about the afternoon plans. I swear Rose said to Mary, "You and Dad can do something fun." Rose claims she said, "You and Dad will have to figure out what to do," and that I said, "Yeah, we will do something fun." Later in the day, I texted Rose and said, "Just want to know when you will be back so I can figure out what Mary and I will do." She didn't respond to that particular message. I planned on doing something fun with Mary when I picked her up from camp. When I got her, it turned out she'd won an award at camp. I called Rose and Ally to share the news, and we were all pumped. Mary and I decided to go mini golfing. We had about an hour to kill before we had to meet Rose and Ally for dinner. Mary and I were about halfway through mini golfing when Rose called me with Ally in the car after the appointment. I told her we were at mini golf. She was furious with me. Ally started whining that it wasn't fair that she didn't go, to which I told her that I was taking her next week while Mary was with some of our family for a few nights. While the argument itself ended fine and a few hours later, Rose maintains that I was in the wrong to take Mary to mini golf. She says that it isn't fair to Ally and that it makes Ally feel as if she's been punished for having a doctor appointment. I don't agree. We are very fair and treat our kids equally. There is no favorite, no golden child. At the same time, we try to instill in them that life isn't 100% fair all the time. Even so, I planned on doing something with her this week, as I said, and there have been plenty of times Ally gets to do something while Mary can't because she has something else going on. I don't think I did anything wrong by taking Mary golfing. We had time to kill, and she was celebrating her award. My wife believes I should have just taken her home and hung out there, but I didn't want to just sit at home and put on the TV or something. I wanted something a bit more fun. I do admit that I should have kept it quiet from Ally to avoid upsetting her. So Reddit, am I the asshole? You did nothing to be ashamed of. Taking one kid at a time to do things is a great way to give each child quality time with their parents. It was wrong of Rose to sour Mary's special day by making a scene. Any miscommunication should have been addressed privately, not in front of Ally. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.